Until you get the hang of it, getting set up at an endurance ride can take a lot more time than you would think, and many riders joke that the hardest part of an endurance ride is just getting there. This video should help iron out a few of the wrinkles. Try to arrive at camp as early as possible the day before to set up, check in, and allow for unexpected delays. Some riders do arrive late, but you'll be a lot more relaxed and have a lot more fun if you aren't trying to get everything done in the dark. Before leaving home, make sure that you have good, clear directions on where you're going. GPS navigation systems are helpful, but they don't always allow for the limitations of pulling a horse trailer into remote off-road areas. Review a map ahead of time and, if necessary, adjust your route so that you're avoiding narrow, winding roads and heavy urban traffic whenever possible. If you have an extremely large rig, it's a good idea to check with the ride manager to make sure that the road into camp will accommodate you without damage. Most ride managers will provide you with this kind of information on the ride flyer, but not always. When you're getting close to base camp, keep an eye out for signs or markers pointing the way. Pay close attention to signs to leave gates open or closed, as well as speed limits to avoid excessive dust and road damage. Once you've found camp, look for any additional signage telling you where to park, such as areas reserved for large rigs, those camping with dogs, and so on. Don't be surprised if ride management asks you to move if you've parked in the wrong place. Endurance rides are often held on private land, so always respect requests to avoid certain areas. Never drive off-road unless specifically directed. Doing so can cause significant damage to agricultural and grazing areas. Keep in mind that access to private land is a privilege, not a right, and future access is easily and permanently lost through a single incidence of bad manners. Before pulling in, pay attention to the footing. Avoid areas of deep sand, deep ruts, or ground that might turn into a quagmire after a rain and end up getting you stuck. Don't block any trails, access roads, or another rig's ability to pull out at any time. Allow yourself enough room between yourself and your neighbor for both comfort and safety. If you plan on using a generator, position your rig so that the noise and exhaust won't disturb others. You might also want to make sure that their generator isn't right next to where you'll be sleeping. In any case, an unspoken rule of camp etiquette is that all generators should be turned off by 9 p.m. After arrival, unload your horse and get his food, water, and containment systems set up before you do anything about setting up your own. The sooner he can relax and start eating and drinking, the better. As soon as your horse is comfortable, locate the ride manager's rig and pick up your rider packet. Don't take your horse with you yet, but do bring cash or your checkbook with you if you haven't already fully paid for your entry or additional meals. Your rider packet will contain your vet card that you will carry with you throughout the ride, maps or trail descriptions, meal tickets if any, and often a small sandwich bag to keep your ride card in so that it stays dry and somewhat protected. There are often additional items that you might need, so take some time to review its contents. If you're lucky enough to have crew with you to help, ask if any of the vet checks are located away from base camp and if crewing is allowed at the out checks. Be sure to pick up driving directions for your crew if not already provided. Not all vet checks allow easy access and so may be off limits to crew. Under those circumstances, you'll need to send out a crew bag with ride management. Water for the horses will always be available at checks, but you might also want to ask if they will be providing anything else, such as horse feed or the rider's lunch. This information will generally be discussed at the ride meeting. Check-in usually starts mid to late afternoon, depending on the size of the ride. The line will get longer later in the day, so you might want to take your horse over as soon as you can. Be sure to take your vet card with you. If you plan to arrive late the night before or on the morning of the ride, make arrangements with the ride manager ahead of time so that your horse can be checked in before you tack up in the morning. Ride staff generally needs to leave camp very early in the morning, soon after the first horses depart, so don't automatically assume that control judges will be at the starting line when you are. After checking in, many riders saddle up and go for a short ride to make sure everything is adjusted correctly and work out the kinks from traveling. At the very least, take your horse for a walk to keep him loose. Make sure that all of your equipment and clothing is organized and laid out ready to go. It's a lot easier to find things on the day before than it is right before the start. If you're sending out a crew bag, take it with you to the rider meeting. The ride manager will announce where you can leave it for transport out to the vet checks. Don't send more stuff than you really need. Volunteers are the unsung heroes of the sport, so don't ask them to carry lots of equipment that isn't really necessary. Be sure to attend the rider meeting, especially if you're new to the sport. The ride manager and head control judge will welcome you to the ride, discuss the weather, trail, and any last-minute changes, pulse criteria, and other relevant information. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Many rides will offer a new rider meeting. Even if not formally offered, don't be afraid to introduce yourself as being a first-time endurance rider and ask for help. Doing so is a great way to meet new friends and have a fun, safe, and relaxing weekend.